All right, so I figured I'll just tell another quick story here. Some of you guys like them, some of you guys hate them. If you don't like them, you can always push the next button. It's no big thing. But I'm going to tell you the story of the when my Volkswagen got stolen, and back in the '80s, and I was so lucky to get it back. Um, but I didn't, and it was pretty damaged. But anyway, I'll tell you the story real quick. So I was just dead asleep at night, and I get a phone call from the cops, and it was like, I don't know, about 2 in the morning. And a cop calls me up, and I'm just don't even understand. I'm not even getting what he's saying. He goes, "Oh, this is the police." And I'm going, I'm like totally out of it. And he's going, "Yeah, hey, is your car outside?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, it should be." And he goes, "Well, can you go check?" So I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, just go check. Do me a favor and go check real quick." Then I'm kind of going, "What the fuck?" So I go outside and I look where it was setting, and then I came back in because there's no cell phone. I'm on the phone. I had to have him hold for a second. Went outside, looked, and I come back in and go, "Oh no, it's gone." He goes, "Well, I think I found it." I wish he would have just said that first. And he goes, "I think I found it, and it's right up the street here, over at so and so and so and so exit our streets." And it was about 2 or 3 miles away. And "You want me to tow it to the thing, or you want to come get it?" And I'm like, "Well, how the hell am I going to come get it? I've got no car. That was my car." And so anyway, I go and I go, "Well, I don't know what the hell to do." So I call up my buddies. I had these friends of mine. Not going to mention their name. They were a towing company back in the day, real popular Volkswagen towing company. They used to have dragsters and everything. And two brothers, twin brothers, owned the company. Maybe you guys have figured out by now. And I call up my buddy uh, Dwayne. Yeah, his brother Dave didn't really like me that much. Seemed like, I don't know, he was always standoffish to me. But Dwayne and I were they're twins, so you couldn't even hardly tell them apart. And Dwayne and I were buddies. And so I call him up in the middle of the night. I go, "Dwayne, dude, I'm sorry for waking you up." I said, "My car was stolen." He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "It's over on these streets." And hey, at the time I was giving him a lot of work. He was picking up cars and delivering them to our shop. So he was like, "No, dude, no, no, no." I go, "Dude, can you think you can help me out?" He goes, "Oh, I usually do service calls, but for you, I'll get up and come out and help you. No problem." I go, "Seriously?" And he goes, "Yeah." All right. So I meet him over at the car. And what happened is the guy was driving. I had this 1835 high compression, you know, NPR pistons, high performance cam, ported heads, two barrel. And people think, "Oh, you need a big motor, you need a 2276 to be fast." And it's like, no, that car was, the 2676 obviously is much faster, or a 2332 is much faster car with dual 40s on, or 48s or something. But that car was pretty darn fast. It was very, very quick. If you were turning a corner and you didn't have to clutch it, if you just slammed your foot on the gas pedal, it would it would drift. I mean, it would just pitch sideways, and you'd be just, "Hang on, man, you're going to be turning into the turn," and it would spin the tires. So I mean, that's a lot of power. That's enough power to have a lot of fun. And it was a quick car. It wasn't that slow. And so I guess the guy was going around a corner because he's evading. He just stole it. He's whatever on drugs, who knows. And he's pitching around the corner, and started to catch a slide. You could see the tire marks and everything. And he opened it up and he didn't know to steer into the turn, and he just ended up spinning all the way around. And then this wheel was on a curb, so the road's going this way. On the other side of the street, he spun all the way around and got this wheel was up on the curb with the wheel broken off, and the brake drum had shattered, and it was sitting there on the curb idling. When I got there, it was running. The car was running, and the cops go. They come over. I get there with Dwayne comes, picks me up. It's not far from my house, from my apartment. Drove over there. We go and get the car, and we're like, dude, it's running still. He was like, wow. And it was like the whole car was still there, but of course they were trying to steal my stereo out of the thing, and out of the car. They stole the radio out of it, which was a joke. And the radio, it was like a $20 radio, but I had a killer Sanyo PA6100 amp. If you know what that amp is, it was the biggest amp you could get in your car. In fact, I have one. I'll show you what it looks like. So I had this amp. Well, it's similar to this one. The 6100 was the older version. This is the 7050. And the 7050 was the same amp, but it has this automatic switching circuit, so it looked just like this. And if you see here, it was bolted on, and I had purposely, instead of putting sheet metal screws on there, I had purposely put nuts and bolts. I had through bolted it and put nuts and bolts on it so that somebody couldn't just, they had to think a little bit before they could take it out. They couldn't just use a screwdriver and take it out. They'd have to have another person on the other side to hold the nut so they could get it off. So this is the same, not the same amp, but this is another one. I bought this a while back, really cheap, and it's a really high-end amp. I mean, this thing, 0.05% distortion, 50 watts minimum RMS per channel. This thing puts out some serious juice. So in the back seat, behind the back seat, I had a 3 cubic foot box with a 10-inch polypropylene Peerless woofers back there. And I had that in 1980 pretty much, but this was after that. So in 1980, I had those speakers in there with that system. I had a complete separate speaker system. There was nobody in 1980 that had that. It was kind of one of the first boombox type of cars, but I didn't really listen to bassy music like people do today. So the box and the speakers were worth, and the amp was where the money was. The head unit was worth nothing. It was a cheap head unit. It's $50 or $20, I forget, cheap thing. And they took the head unit out of it. So basically, whoever it was walked away with nothing, jacked up my car, and bent the axle. So the brake drum was shattered, the axle was bent, and the axle tube itself was bent. But you couldn't see that the axle tube was bent. I didn't figure that out until I wore out a wheel bearing. So I put it all together, put a new axle in, and didn't change the axle tube. And then I had to take it back apart and change the axle tube, because the axle tube was just slightly bent and it was wearing out the bearings on the axle. It wore out like in a week. So we figured out that real quick. But that was it for my stolen car. We went and towed it back to the house. Towed it to my mom's house, dropped it off where I used to work on stuff, and went to work on it. And then in that much time, in 3 months, I lived these apartments. That car got stolen. My other car, and it was not a bad looking neighborhood. You'd never know from, just the people would come over there to steal. And that car got stolen. My other car went to work the next day, a couple days later, and the battery was gone out of it. And then while my first wife was home, the person under me got robbed, and they stole everything out of her apartment while she was home. And it was after that I said, you know what? I went to my landlord and I said, listen, I said, I know I got a year lease here, but I said, there's just no way I'm staying here a year. And she goes, you know what? She tore up the lease. Let me go. I was so lucky. And then that time I had found a better place, had a house. So anyway, but that's it for the stolen Volkswagen. Didn't jack up the motor. Motor was still running. Uh, Everything else in the car was fine. Didn't even damage the body at all. Just the curb. Just took out the brake drum and wheel, and that was it. Didn't bend anything else. Just the axle tube and the axle. So anyway, that's it for the stolen Volkswagen. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.